Welcome, everybody, to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. My name is Nicole Greer, and they call me the Vibrant Coach, and I am here with another amazing, vibrant guest. Today on the show, I have Devine. He is an experienced regional sales coordinator with Aflac, but he stepped out into his own business now, and he's a skilled health insurance, customer service, employee benefits design, account management, and life insurance professional. He has a strong sales professional. Stop. He's a strong that doesn't read right. You gotta fix this on your LinkedIn. He is a strong sales professional with a Juris Doctor JD from Syracuse University College of Law. He is a former assistant district attorney for Suffolk County, New York, and a successful private practice attorney. He joined AFLAC 9 years ago and has helped and coached countless people to become successful in their lives. Please welcome to the show, Al. How are you, Al?
Wonderful, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my delight. I'm glad you're here. Al and I were both at a SHRM meeting here in North Carolina, Society for Human Resource Management meeting, and we had a chat, and I invited him on the show. So I'm absolutely delighted that you are here today. And so I know you've got this rich history, and you've been in leadership positions before, and you're leading yourself in your own entrepreneurial endeavor now. How would you define leadership? I am kind of collecting definitions of leadership.
Well, it's funny. I've done a lot of reading and played a lot of sports, and I read a book by Tom Landry several years ago. And actually, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. Um,
Okay.
so a leader is more of a coach, I think. And a coach is someone who encourages you to do what you don't necessarily want to do, so you can achieve what you want to achieve. Um,
Hmm.
and that kind of resonated with me. I read that book years ago, and I kind of wish I read it when I was a kid. You know, the coach would tell you to run an extra mile or run some laps. You're like, oh, why am I doing laps? Well, you got to get in shape. So then years later, as I was coaching youth soccer and junior high soccer for my kids, I explained to the kids, guys, we got to run, and something the girls as well. Um, we have to run, so we got to do an extra lap because all the other teams are also running extra laps. So yeah, we ran one lap the first day or whatever. Now, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season, we have to do more because
That's
everybody's
right.
getting in better shape. So do what you don't want to do so you can achieve what you want to achieve. That's kind of my definition of a coach or as a leader.
Okay, I love that. Do it you say it again. Do what you have to do so you can get what you want to achieve.
Sure. This is as close as I can remember. A coach is someone who encourages you to do what you don't necessarily want to do,
Ah,
so you can achieve what you want to achieve.
yeah, because the bottom line, Al, is like if you want to get something done in this life, you're going to have to use a four-letter word, and that is WORK. Am I right?
Absolutely, exactly right. I'm a big
Yeah.
follower of Jim Rohn. You know,
Oh, me too.
and if you want tomatoes in the fall, right, you gotta plant them in the spring. So
That's 100%
you
correct.
go to
Yes.
so yeah, that's kind of it's a long-winded explanation to my definition of leadership.
Yeah, yeah. So I bet you've done that in your lifetime. You've put some laps in or done some things you didn't want to do that helped you get where you are. So do you have like maybe a little story or an example of, buckling down and grunting out something you didn't want to do so you could get where you wanted to go?
Oh, yeah. Certainly getting my law degree, right?
Yeah,
I went to school in upstate New York for law school, and whew, if you're not from upstate or the north, the extreme north, snow, and my law school friends who we're still very close to today used to trudging through the snow and 2 feet of snow and getting to class. They're like, why am I doing this?
right.
And studying for the bar exam. I always wanted to be a prosecutor, so those were all steps in becoming a prosecutor. So yeah, it's you got to put the time and the effort in.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So it can be the actual studying for the bar, or it can just simply rolling out of bed, getting your clothes on, and getting over to class in the 2 feet of snow. So
Yeah.
there's this whole gamut of things that we have to do to move ourselves forward. That's fantastic. All right. So I'm curious, what do you think helped you develop your leadership style?
Um, I would say a lot of time. I've been thinking about this as well. Like even as a kid, I mean, a lot of me is like dealing with sports. I was never necessarily the best athlete on the team, that's for sure, but I love being part of the team. So
Mm,
the coaching as a kid, um, I remember my JV football coach. Sometimes he would yell at a player or whatever, and then he'd come over and say, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you," and kiss their helmet. And it was kind of Mr. Walfalk. He was just a great coach. He's a great teacher, and I just remember that to this day. That's more than 40 years ago, probably 45 years ago, as to how he emboldened us and encouraged us. So some of the, Mike Hanna, he was a lacrosse coach as a kid. Mr. Haniff, he was a baseball coach. How he kind of molded us, and then professionally, one of my bureau chiefs in the DA's office was Emily Constant,
hmm.
who was a constant encourager. She certainly encouraged us, to do our work and be ethical. Um, my good friend Steve Kratz, who encouraged me when I left New York, when I left my practice to move down to North Carolina. He introduced me to the insurance world. So he was probably the biggest encourager I've ever met. Very very positive person. So and certainly then later on in the Aflac world was Mike Butler and Tommy Hatcher. Um, my parents, obviously, I'm the second youngest of 10 children, so they were strong leaders in their own right. And certainly Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, I listened to so many of his tapes and CDs over the years that I really I wish I had known about him when I was in college. Actually, I probably would have learned. I probably would have done better in school if I had learned about him years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So I just want to highlight a little bit of what Al is saying here for you listeners. He has said the word encourager about 8 times. So first of all, I just want to say, the words that come out of a leader's mouth or a mentor's mouth or a coach's mouth, they either like edify the person in front of them or tear them down. And I think that that is really really important to understand is that you can do something so simple, and I love this image of that coach coming over and kissing your football helmet. Like that's so endearing to my heart, because I had a little football player for a long time, and I just think that they're out there sweating to death and trying their best, and it's hot, it's tiring, and they're just little people,
Yeah,
and and to have that coach come over and like give you a swat on the butt, but then also a kiss on the helmet. I can totally see the whole scene going down. Yeah, so I think words matter, don't they, Al?
they sure do. Absolutely. Yeah, they can build you up and they can tear you down. So, and you can spend hours right building somebody up, and it takes a second to tear them down.
That's exactly right. And and I love what I love about Al's answer to that question too also was this is that like he had a whole series of people. Like how blessed is Al Devine that he had all these people that continued to talk into his life and to encourage him. So just think about yourself right now, listener. If you had somebody in your past that you encouraged, and if they had to make a laundry list, would your name be on that list as an encourager? So that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Well,
My kids wouldn't say that.
what's that?
My kids might not say that.
Oh, I bet they would. I bet they would. Yeah. I don't, how old are your kids?
My daughter is 27 and my son is 24.
Oh yeah, I bet they would for sure. There is a space of time, you know this, Al, where you're not the brightest guy in the book, but then all of a sudden you become smart again. I'm in the smart again category, so I bet you you're there too. Your kids
Yeah,
are old
yeah,
enough for that.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. So what traits does a great leader have? What do you think the traits of a leader are, and why?
Certainly empathy. Um, It's you have to be able to feel for the person. Humble, um, it's, giving praise, not taking credit or sharing the credit is also a
Yeah.
big thing to me. Um, Being a listener. Sometimes you got to bite your tongue. It's allow people to make mistakes. Just again going back to sports, you're not on the field, you're not on the court with the athletes. So sometimes you have to sit back and say, we practice that. Hopefully it works out. I was just reading something. Uh, Maybe it's about John Wooden, and
Oh, I love John Wooden so much.
yeah, me
Everybody
too.
go buy a book that has all his quotes in it, everybody. Do that. That's a good thing
Absolutely, yeah.
to do
I'd
today.
say I have one of his books right here. What do I got? The Pyramid of Success,
Oh my gosh, so good. So
right?
stinking good. Yeah.
um, and he says, practice, 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 because you know, you're only on the field or the court for an hour a week or whatever it is. Well, certainly basketball more than that, but 2 hours a week maybe in basketball. But you're practicing for 20, 30, 40 hours. Um, and it's the same thing with sales or you know anything you do. You got to practice and you make a mistake and you pick yourself up and you move on. So I think a leader, they can't overreact when a mistake is made, and sometimes it's a big financial mistake, right? I don't know, you put something in the wrong spot, it might cost thousands of dollars, but you deal with it in private. You deal with that situation in private, and then you praise in public. That's a big thing because sometimes we have it backwards, where you criticize in public, but then you praise in private. Sometimes you get it backwards. So you something criticize in private and praise in public. Um, you know, like I said, sympathy, and I had a few others I had written down. Sometimes you got to push, right? Sometimes you
Absolutely.
got to push your folks. You know, either towards a deadline. You got to push. But the flip side is you also have to lead from the front. You got to be the first one to you know Jim Rohn says take the first arrow, right? And in today's world, it might not be the right thing to say, but sometimes you got to lead from the front and be the first one to do it. And if they see you doing it, they're going to say, okay, if Al's doing it or John's doing it or Mary's doing it, then they'll do it.
Right.
Uh, so certainly pushing, encouraging, lending a hand. There's so many things. You could be humble but not a pushover. Um, be strong but not a bully. Things of that. Those are some of the things I would say.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And so don't miss everybody that he's mentioned Jim Rohn a couple of times. And you've heard me mention it before. If you listen to the podcast frequently, you know that I'm a big fan. So go over to the YouTube, not right now, but when you're done listening to this, go over to the YouTube. And his last name is Rohn. Jim has popped off the planet now. He's up in heaven now, but he was instrumental in giving amazing mentorship and leadership to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And he's got books that you can buy, of course, on the Amazon. So check him out, and also get the book that Al just talked about by John Wooden. I think those would be like staples of your leadership library. I think that's fantastic. And one thing that I also love about what Al is saying is he said, push but don't be a bully. Like he's saying, like there's this sweet spot to each one of these particular traits. He says, be empathetic but don't be a pushover. And I think that that is a really good thing to highlight real quickly, is that, there are these things of traits of leaders, but you don't want to overuse them or underuse them. I think there's this sweet spot. What do you think, Al?
No, I agree. I agree. As we're chatting, I just think of different things over the years. Like um, how you got to find that balance, and sometimes we do overdo it. Or we don't do it enough.
That's right. Well, one thing I'll tell leaders all the time is about, you've got to be in a position where you can delegate to people. You got to find people you trust, who you think are smart, who can come alongside you and kind of pick up some of the work that needs to be done inside your organization. And for many, many years, especially when I was younger, I was in charge of things. They always put me in charge of things pretty quickly because I had a lot of energy. I think that was the bottom line. It was like I was vibrant in the way back, and they're like, just let her be in charge. She'll make sure it gets done. But oftentimes I would delegate things, but then people wouldn't do it for whatever reason, whatever motive they had not to do what I asked them to do, and I'd just clean up after them
Mhm.
and do their work for them just so it would get done.
Right.
And then, like, I didn't wanna deal with the conflict, so I didn't say anything. So that would be kind of the pushover part that you're talking about, right?
Sure. Mhm.
And instead, I should have said, "Hey, you said you would do this for me. What's up?" And, hold them accountable for what they were doing.
Well, certainly accountability is a big deal. Yes, exactly right. Yes, I mean, even with your children, right? I mean, um, you got to hold them accountable. But very often, they'll leave dishes in the sink. It's easier for you to clean the dishes or whatever it is, and then you're annoyed for an hour or two. But before you can listen, get off the video games or get out of bed and come do those dishes like you said you're going to do an hour ago. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But
Right, right.
it's the accountability. And sometimes we overreact. Okay, you didn't do the dishes, you're not taking the car. Well, then then things tend to escalate. So it's all about the balance, right? Um,
Absolutely.
I,
And I think leaders have to be thoughtful. Like
yeah.
before you say something, before you take action, maybe hold on for a hot second and reflect and think of what
Yes,
is the
yeah.
best way forward right here. Yeah.
Well, Lincoln, I mean, obviously everybody's heard Abraham Lincoln. Things would happen. He'd write him a letter. He'd write a nasty gram. Well, back before that nasty gram, but he'd write a nasty letter to dear so and so, blah, 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 blah. Lick it, close it, then put it on his desk, and then never send it. So he got it
I
off
have
his
not heard
chest,
that.
but he just never sent it. So instead of reacting, well, now it's like something happens, you send a nasty gram by text, like just don't hit the send button. Don't hit the send button. My friend and I were talking, and sometimes you're like, it might be a sarcastic remark to you, but you take it a different way because there's no inflection. You're like, oh, maybe that person's having a bad day, and just don't react. And if we could all just take a second and not react to everything that comes across your phone or your email, things would be a little better off.
Yeah, and what Al is talking about is this thing I teach all the time. So, Al, I teach emotional intelligence quite often. In
Cool.
fact, I just taught it last week twice in 1 week. I
Mhm.
had two huge groups of people. And so I'll just share with you listeners that emotional intelligence, I know you've heard that term before, but I'll remind you what the definition is. The acronym is RUM, which is kind of fun. But RUM, it stands for recognize, understand, and manage your emotions and the emotions of others, meaning that, like, if you get triggered by something like somebody's comment, like Al's saying, it's like just take a step back and go, did he mean that, or is he trying to be funny?
Right. Mhm.
But he's not so funny. It's just, checking yourself first, and then secondarily, let's say that you think he is not trying to be funny, that he truly meant it. What you can do is you can do what we call social awareness. Like, okay, before I assume, because we all know what assume means,
Mhm.
make an ass out of you and me, I could just send a response and say, hey, how did you mean this comment? I wanna take it the right way. That's a good way to respond, and so then you're doing social awareness, and then you're doing relationship management. Like, I don't wanna have a fuss with you, so let me just check in and see what's going on here. So there's a little 2 cents on emotional intelligence, and that would be one of the traits that leaders need to have is superior emotional intelligence. What do you think about that, Al?
Oh, I agree. No doubt about it. I mean, it's you can't react to everything, and that comes with maturity too. And
Oh, 100%.
and it comes with making mistakes. Sometimes we do overreact, and you say, "Oh, note to self: don't react that way the next time." It can be with your children. I mean, spilt milk or what. I mean, there's so many idioms like, don't cry over spilt milk or whatever. I mean, sometimes your feelings will get hurt. Certainly, as a leader, your feelings will get hurt.
Hmm.
And you got to be able to move on. Um, and because sometimes the people that you're trying to lead are not necessarily as mature as you as well. And you have to, and where are they? Are they having a bad day? Did their car break down? Is their cat sick? Because I'm saying the cat because we have a cat and the dogs here, and
he's he's surrounded.
we are. Yeah, that's the sales team right now. Get to work, guys. and
Yeah.
But so what happened in their life today? I mean, are they normally nice to you? All of a sudden, something happened, and they maybe you're the first person that they saw, and they bit your head off for whatever reason. So sometimes you take a step back and so what happened? Is everything okay? What's wrong? Um, find out where they're coming from, not where you are, where they're coming from. Those are traits of people that you have to be able to deal with.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what you're saying about, stepping back, they've said over and over again in many of the leadership studies is that great leaders have the ability to pause and to think, right? And be what I would call strategic. And I love your comment about emotional intelligence being maturity. I couldn't agree more. In fact, sometimes I kid and I say, I wish I could, call my emotional intelligence class, the maturity class, but I don't think anybody would sign up because everybody thinks they've totally matured. They don't have anything new to learn. And it's true, having emotional intelligence is what I had a grandma that raised me, Alan. Her name was Myrtle Clara Catherine Charlotte Witka Pale. She was a little formidable German woman who raised me, and she would say to me, whenever I was upset with somebody, she would just say, "Oh, honey, kill him with kindness." Now, don't miss. She said, "Kill him,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but she was like, "Just take the high road." Don't let it get to you. Don't let that meanness upset you. That's what they want.
Mhm. And that's absolutely correct. It's funny you said that. There's an old lawyer that I knew years ago, and he used to say the same thing: "Kill them with kindness." Yeah, and
Yeah.
great advice.
Yeah, I think so too. And then you said sometimes people they don't have that maturity, and sometimes it's actually like a blind spot. Like if you don't know any better, you don't know any better
Mhm.
until somebody teaches you better.
Yes,
And then once you know better, you're better. I mean, it's just really simple that way. So sometimes in a conversation or a dealing with somebody, it's just like you got to show them the way because nobody has before. And sometimes we just tolerate people and their behavior instead of like coming alongside them and saying, "Hey, I've got an idea for you. Would you like this idea? Here's how you might handle this moving forward."
exactly right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they might be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know."
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. All right. So I'm curious, how have you built your business over the years? We're talking to a lot of people who are in leadership, and I know that you've been successful. You had a law practice, then you like crazy up and moved to North Carolina, and then you were regional with Aflac, and now you're kind of out on your own. So tell me a little bit about how you've built your business over there. What's the secret to building the business? Because we all know that you can't have a vibrant culture unless you have great products and services. So tell me a little bit about that.
But this might be a long-winded answer. Hope it's okay.
Yeah, we've got 24 minutes. We got all the time
Oh,
in the
okay. Well,
world.
geez, I could get this done in 23.
Okay, good, very good.
Well, so I don't know, I'll be talking about myself, but um, so I mean, I always wanted to be a prosecutor. So that, so when I started in the DA's office, 1991. It's a long time ago, and I thought I was going to be
Hmm.
there for life, and I loved it. I loved every single day I was there. But then reality set in, and we couldn't pay the bills. Paying a mortgage, little kids. It wasn't like you could be the best because I mean there's a government job. It was just the money was the money, right?
It
So
is
my
what it is, as they say.
Yep. So my friend and I, we started. We were there for 7 years or so, and we decided to go out on our own. And I remember Emily Constant, I mentioned her before, and I just won a big case, and I said, Emily, I think I have to leave. She goes, Are you crazy? I said, Emily, I'm going broke, and I can either go broke here or go broke on my own. So if I'm going to go broke, I might as well go down swinging. So my friend and I started a law practice. My friend Dan McCormick, still a very close friend of mine, and we did it for 10 years, and it was good, and it was really good. Then it became more about the money, honestly, and it would just stop being fun. We love being in the practice, but the business part of it wasn't so much fun. But the business part of it was fun. Then the law practice was hard. So my wife loves horses. You can see some of the horse stuff in the background.
Hmm.
So we bought 18 acres in the country in 2007, and people thought we were crazy because we had a good practice, but we decided to do something different. And so we bought 18 acres in the country, and my wife brought her horses down here, and we have a little horse farm too.
Nice.
Over the years we built a barn, and we've had boarders here. So then I met my friend Steve. So that's kind of how I got into the insurance business. And failure really was not an option. I mean, my law license would transfer to North Carolina at the time, and I'm still licensed in New York, but I just kind of didn't have the passion anymore for practicing law. So I met my friend Steve, and I thought about doing all these different types of businesses, maybe a restaurant or whatever, right? And so I got my insurance license and met Steve, and Steve, he really looked out for me, and he like I was saying about the constant encourager. He's always everything was positive with Steve.
Right.
It's like it's okay if you lost your left arm, it's okay. Now you have your right arm, right? There's always that positive side to him. So that's what I did. I just went out. Again, that's when I got. That's actually when I first got introduced to Jim Rohn, was through Steve, and so he's again, you've heard this before, but I keep going back to Jim Rohn was. Uh, you know, I can hear Jim's voice actually saying, you want to be successful at sales, do three things: talk to lots of people every day, be real nice, and give great service. Right?
Right.
It's a
It's
simple
pretty
set.
simple.
And I figured, okay, well, I can go. There are a lot of people out there, so I can go talk to lots of people, and I'm generally outgoing. I know I can give a good service. That's the easy part. So it's a matter of just do it. Just go out there and do it. So I was successful on the Aflac side. Then the world keeps getting bigger and bigger. The better you do. So then you got other avenues between homeowners insurance and workers' comp insurance and Medicare insurance. So there's a big world out there. So I'm licensed in everything, and my law degree helps.
Oh, I bet it does.
Because I did some estate planning. After the DA's office, I did estate planning, and so you do you learn, and you have to actually, it's funny. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but you asked before about a leader. You have to be willing to learn, right?
100%. I think you have to um, learn a lot, serve a lot,
Mhm.
and help a lot. And serve and help are a little bit different. One is you are underneath, girding up what other people are trying to accomplish with your actions, and then helping is literally like, what do you need? Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. So one is building structure and
Mhm.
the other is, getting right in there and finding out exactly how you can help people. But I think learning is the number one thing in the world a leader needs to do because the more you know about how business runs, business acumen, to your point, you couldn't run your business at the level you're running it at today if you didn't get certified in all those different things. And
Exactly.
and I do think the world is your oyster. I mean, that's a William Shakespeare
Yes.
thing, but I believe that with all my heart. Like if you want to get after something, you just have to go like back to the beginning of this podcast. You just have to work for it. You got to figure
Exactly
out the
right. Yeah.
steps. Hmm.
And yet, I mean, listen, we've been my wife is great. I mean, married 32 years come February, so we've been kind of partners for a long time. Yeah, and we've known each other most of our adult life. So it's like you got ups and downs, right? I mean, when things are down, then when things are up, so you got to, it's nice to have a life partner. Said, okay, all right, things are down. Okay, let me give each other some space. And then when things are up, okay, well, let's not go too crazy because you got to, it's got to get stormy out again, right? So
That's right. And what you're saying is, like who you surround yourself with, which would be another Jim Rohn thing, right? I
yeah,
think he the one that said you're the product of the four people or five people that you hang out with the most. And so, if you hang out with a great lady for 32 years, that's a help.
it helped for sure. Yeah. Well, she keeps me grounded too as well. Yeah. And I mean, we're her own interest. I mean, she's really into the horses and stuff. So there's balance. There's certainly a lot of balance.
Yeah,
Um,
fantastic. All right. So, if I was to recap everything Al just said, is that he took a lot of risks and he followed his passion. That's kind of what I heard.
yeah.
So, I loved being in the office, being the prosecutor. I loved it, and then I tried my own thing, but I lost the passion. Then, boom, I moved to North Carolina. So, I think too, to be successful, there's a certain amount of risk you got to take.
Yeah. I would say it's kind of like calculated risk.
Sure, sure.
At least, like, because we had a nice house in Long Island. That's where we're both from. I mean, we're native New Yorkers. We were never leaving New York, um, and then we did, you know.
Right,
And my backup plan was, what's the worst that could happen? So that was, we moved to North Carolina, and let's say we hate it. What's the worst that could happen? We fall flat on our face. Well, I moved back to New York and I practiced law again.
right.
That was my backup plan. I mean, that's not a terrible backup plan, right? So I mean, you might have to find a new place to live in whatever it was. But I'm like, worst comes to worst, we could always move back. So that's kind of how I looked at it. So and I said, I'm not. That people said, you're going to North Carolina. It's a lot of guts. I'm like, I'm not getting on the Mayflower, man. You know, that took a lot of
It's
guts.
just the South. It'll be okay.
Exactly. I can be home if I drove, I could be home in 10 hours. Or get on a plane, and be home in an hour. It's not like getting on the Mayflower and we don't know where we're going.
That's right.
So those people had guts. This is coming down to North Carolina and just embracing it, and that's kind of how we looked at it. And we took it. I mean, listen, we did take a big chance. I mean, for our children, we pulled the kids out of school, but looking back, we included, and they were little, but we included them in the decision making. Like, took them to the schools, and they were. I mean, my son was only going to second grade, my daughter into fifth, but they were to a certain extent involved in the conversation. And okay, let's take a ride down to North Carolina again, look at some houses, and so they were part of it, and they were looking forward to it. So it all worked out. My son went to Campbell, my daughter went to Carolina.
Oh
So
my goodness, how wonderful.
yeah, so we were very fortunate. But yeah, so I mean, so there's certainly luck and risk kind of go hand in hand. But I think probably believing in yourself. So you mess up, you make a mistake, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you get back in the game. What was it? The person you don't really fail until you stay down, right? Something worse to that effect.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and I think too, it's like, if you wanted to go back to Long Island this afternoon, I bet you there was somebody with a guest room with your name on it, right? I mean, you didn't leave it permanently. There's probably people up there, family that you can visit, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's about being taking a little bit of calculated risk. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's wonderful. Well, how did you become a leader? I know at one point you were like the regional for Aflac. What do you think got you promoted? Or got you put in the leadership seat? I think people listen to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast because they're trying to figure out how to develop a wonderful workplace. But I also think there are people out there listening who would like to get into a higher leadership seat or get into a leadership seat and start their leadership career. How'd you get in the leadership seat?
Um, there's a couple of. I mean, there's no just real one answer to that. I would say.
Okay.
I think personality is part of it. You certainly have to be good at what you do. I mean, knowing the right people certainly helps, but that only gets you to a certain spot, right? You have to be able to perform. Um, but for me, it's funny. Like when I started, and I didn't know. I mean, as a lawyer, you were involved with the insurance companies to a certain extent, but not certainly not in the sales realm.
Mhm.
But I so I first of all, I believed in what I did. I believed in the product. And communication skills. Actually, I'm reading the book now, uh, John Maxwell, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. It's
Hmm.
one of his newer books, and I actually got it right here. But I think you got to read. That's, if you want to be a leader, you got to read. Readers,
Oh my God. Can we just stop there for just a moment? Did you hear what Al said? Everybody, I must say that on every single podcast. Leaders read, period.
yeah,
Don't tell me you don't read. You're not going to go anywhere. You need more ideas in your head than what's in your head. Keep going. I just wanted to put a shout out for leaders
yeah.
read. Anyways, go ahead.
Leaders are readers, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. I got a stack. I got a stack of books right here. Like some of the books that kind of helped me out over the years.
Hmm.
So if we have time, I'll kind of recommend some of them. But anyway,
Okay,
and I don't get a bonus by by recommending the books. And there are tons of books I haven't read yet, right? But
sure.
so you gotta read. You gotta have a good personality. People have to like you. Um, Respect. They have to respect what you do. You have to earn their respect. Um, you have to follow them as much as they follow you. Um, if somebody has an idea, you have to listen because you know um, they might have a great idea you never thought about.
That's
Throughout
exactly right.
history, certainly American history. The military. Yeah, you have generals, but sometimes the private has come up with the best idea, and they're like, "That's a great idea. Let's do it." I mean, if you read about Normandy and stuff like that, how they broke through the hedgerows. A lot of just uh, the privates and the corporals, they came up with the ideas how to make things happen. Certainly during the revolution and all that. But so you got to listen to other people, open mindedness, um, belief. So anyway, I became a district sales coordinator, and my friend Jay Hill, he was the state manager at the time, said, "Al, you really became a student of the business." And
Mm,
I think in order to be a leader, you have to become a student of the business. Whether you're a coach, maybe you're a basketball coach or a soccer coach or um, whatever, a parent. You got to be a student of what you do. And so, no, like just different things like you know, I love watching. I love watching kids at the supermarket. And sometimes the kids are like they grabbing everything off the shelves, and the parents are putting it back. No, 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 no. No, the kids are fine in the cart. And why is that? It's just skill. It's a skill of the parent. Is this child listening to the parent or not listening to the parent? Does the
right.
child have respect for the parent? Does the parent have respect for the child? And I love the people watch because it's kind of funny to me. Like, God, that kid's a brat. Well, that kid's well behaved.
That's right. And I love what you're saying about does the child respect the parent and does the parent respect the child? And I think it's about sometimes, you do have to establish authority
Sure,
as a leader, like I am in charge here, but trust me, this is where we're going. And
exactly.
if you follow me, we will have a good trip. And I think that, that's what needs to be said in the car, prior to going into the grocery store. Like, we're going to go in here and here's what's going to happen. So you cast a little vision, which is very leadershipy, right? To,
Yes,
to cast a vision. And this is how we're going to behave. Do you have any questions for me?
Ex-
And there will be a reward, if you
yeah,
behave yourself while we're in the grocery store. And I think that lesson goes all the way through till
yeah,
we're 60 and we're still working for 5 more years. Where are we going? What's the reward? Tell leaders have to be telling these things.
exactly for sure. And there's got to be consequences. My
Right.
I'm going to embarrass my daughter now. She was probably like 5 or 6 or 7 at the time. We're going to this, walking into the supermarket, as a matter of fact, and I go to grab her hand, and she pulled it away. And
Uh-oh.
there's a busy parking lot, so I grabbed her by the wrist, and I started singing in the parking lot. And I said, "Oh, Marissa is too cool to hold a father's hand in the parking lot, but I don't want her to get run over." I was singing a silly song or whatever, and she was mortified.
Right.
And so we do our shopping, and we walk out, and she grabs my hand on the way out, and I didn't sing on the way back to the car. Now,
And that was her plan, I think.
yeah, it was. But that was 20 years ago. We spoke about this probably a month or two ago. Because, Dad, I
Yeah.
remember that day. So it's kind of funny. I mean, so what the consequence is, I'm going to embarrass you. I mean, maybe that's not good as a leader, in a group of people, but certainly for a 7-year old, embarrassment worked.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that was so great about about raising my kids. I don't know about other kids. I mean, and everybody's got different kids.
Sure.
Like you and I are both aware of that. But one of the things I notice is like if you will talk to your children, that really helps. And so my kids have a big vocabulary because I read. I bet you have a great vocabulary too because you read. So I have this big vocabulary. And so I would talk to my children, and the people, all as they were growing up was like, man, your kids are really good at conversation and this and that. And I'm like, that's because I had conversation with them. And then if we translate that over to a leadership and building a vibrant culture, you got to talk to your employees.
Yes.
And I love what you said about being a student of the business. That is so good. Everybody write that down. Be a student of the business. And people can't really be a student of the business if the leader is not talking to them because there's a limited amount of information out there, and if you're over here in finance but you don't know anything about the products, you still need to be taught about it. If you're over here with the products but you don't know anything about how the company's financed, you may not be aware of how successful a company is, what a great job you have, what kind of job security you have. So ah I love that so much. Be a student of the business. That's so good. Well, I've got one last
Can I
question
follow up
for
on
you.
what you just said?
Yeah, please.
It's funny you said talking to them, right?
Yes,
So the,
yes, yes, yes.
so the key is talking to them, not at them.
Yes, having a conversation, a back and forth.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that I'll tell you another class I teach all the time, Al, but it's because of my background in coaching. But I teach this program called Powerful Questions. And I think that that is one of the most amazing things that a leader can do is ask really good questions instead of talking at people, like going to your people and asking them a really powerful question. So maybe the leader could learn something and get the employees thinking, get their followers thinking. And with children, it's the same way, because kids will ask you, why? Why?
Yes,
Why? And we grow irritated with the why, but I'm going to tell you, keep the curiosity going because this will serve a child or an employee a very, very, very long time is
absolutely,
is
for
is to
sure.
get them asking why
Yeah,
so that they grow. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, why? Exactly right. 100%. Curiosity. Don't kill the curiosity.
That's exactly right. Because that's the only thing that we've got to keep us
Mhm.
moving forward and being more valuable. The more we learn, the more valuable we are. That's the other thing I tell employees. Like they're like, I don't want to go to training. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to go to training?
Exactly. Yep.
You're gonna own that training. Like you can leave the company and still take the training with you. It's a gift. Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
what
Yes.
a gift. Yeah, fantastic. All right. So what here'd be my last question for you. Maybe you could leave our listeners with one final great nugget. This will be how can you help build a vibrant culture if you're inside an organization? What can you do to be part of that vibrant culture? And when I say vibrant, I mean energized, excited, enthusiastic about the future.
Well, I think it doesn't necessarily. It's funny. I thought about this question a little bit. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be a work environment, right? It doesn't have to be.
No.
It could be your house, your home, right? You and your family. It could be church. It could be soccer, football, lacrosse, whatever. It could be Rotary. It really, I mean, so I think probably the first thing is to be involved. I mean, don't be a wallflower. And I mean, I've always been kind of involved in stuff. Um, I'm probably more of a take charge type, not necessarily always take charge, but yeah, being from a large family, I think you probably become a little bit independent at a younger age because your parents can't be involved with everything with you, so sometimes you tend to be a little bit more independent. Where I grew up as a kid, we used to I tell my kids we used to drive our bikes to the beach. We were 13 years old driving to the beach, swimming in the ocean, and our
By
parents by
ourselves.
ourselves. Yeah, and being home by 5 o'clock for dinner.
Right.
It was like probably a 45 minutes to an hour bike ride to the beach. and and I look back saying, I don't know if I would let my kids do that today. But we did it, and and so being involved. So I think that's a big thing. And then so what can you do to help? So like we have a yearly I was involved years ago with the church at the yearly festival, and so get involved and just say, okay, do what you say you're going to do.
Mhm.
So, they wanted to raise some money, so I copied an idea from my father-in-law about raising money, and they're like, "There's no way that's gonna work." I'm like, "You want to raise some money? We'll do, but it's got to be, it's got to be, encouraged within, and not really encouraged, but that's the right word, like accepted by the hierarchy of the church. So if they say you're behind it, everybody else will be behind it. So getting involved. So it was a raffle. So I was assistant in starting the raffle. The soccer teams that I coached and the basketball teams I coach, they have to believe that you believe. Um, so we had the little area that I live in is very rural, and our soccer team, my son's seventh grade team, we got we had young kids on the team, and we went to some of the bigger schools in the county, and they crushed us. And one team beat us by like 12 goals.
Oh,
And
painful.
as we were leaving, I grabbed the coach and I said, "What's the matter, coach? 8-0 wasn't good enough for you?" He's like, "Oh, I wasn't running up the score." I said, so I kind of walked away, got on the bus, and I said to the kids, "We're going to beat these guys next year. We're going to beat them." So first day of practice, and now following, most of the seventh graders came back as eighth graders. And I said, "Remember these? Remember how they beat us? The school beat us last year. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them this year." So all year we're talking about beating that team. So give them a little bit of a carrot at the end. I said, if we beat these guys, we have a pizza party. So eighth grade boys, yeah, pizza party. So
Right.
it was 1-1 with like 5 minutes to go in the game, and the other team is panicking because they had more subs than we had players. And so one kid said, "Hey, coach, if we tie, do we still get the pizza?" I said, "No way. We got to win.
That's right.
We got to win." So that somebody on the team scored the winning goal. We won 2-1.
That's
And
fantastic.
if we had lost 5-0 the year before, it wouldn't have meant that much to me this game. But when they embarrassed us, the kids remembered, and the other team was crying at the end of the game. I'm like, remember how they beat us so bad? Now they're crying. You got to win with grace and you got to lose with grace,
That's
and
right.
they never learned that. And that was a problem with the coaching. That's having your people believe in what they're doing is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. So, I have a personal mission statement, Al, and it's Nicole Greer's on a mission to energize, impact, and influence people to lead a vibrant life through engaging with what is possible and taking action to make it probable. And that's exactly what you did with that team, right? It's like, is it possible we could win? And I think some kids, depending on what messages they get at home, so don't miss that, everybody who has a team of employees. You never know what messages your employees got when they were at the house.
Right.
And
Exactly.
we focused a lot on kids today, but I think it's a good example. I mean, like, we are responsible for this next generation that's coming up inside of our organizations, and they may have never had a leader that told them, "No, we can win."
Right. Exactly right. You got to believe.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing about business. Sometimes we're a little confused about business. I mean, businesses have to win. Like, businesses that lose go out of business.
Yes.
so so you have to win. You have to win the customers, you have to win the sale, you have to win the day, you have to win the customer service award. All of that really matters. So, gosh, I've just had the greatest time talking with Al Devine. And hey, everybody, you can find him over on LinkedIn.com, and it's AL-Devine. So LinkedIn with Al over there. And then also, is there a place that we can reach out to you if we want some help with our insurance?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, where do we go?
You can go Google my name. My name will come up. That's for sure.
Okay.
I'll give you my telephone number.
Okay, give it to us. We'd love to have it.
Okay, area code 919
Yeah.
663 4900.
Okay, very good.
And
And Al, we have one final word you'd like to leave our listeners with?
well, read some books. So this is one book that certainly helped me out a lot.
Okay.
It's written by a Navy captain. It's
Oh,
called
so good.
"It's Your
Yes.
Ship." That
Mhm.
really helped me out a lot. And a lot of the, certainly Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Anything by Jim Rohn, John Maxwell, an oldie but a gold good one. The Magic of Thinking Big. I think one of the problems is we don't think big enough. You know, so so you got what are your goals? Learn how to goal set. Just sometimes you won't get them, but at least try. Write them down. Give it a shot. But
Absolutely.
you know, well,
Yeah.
Nicole, it's been my pleasure for the last hour or so.
Yeah, mine too. Listen, I will see you at the next SHRM meeting up there in your neck of the woods. And in the meantime, everybody, again, go check out Al. Just Google his name, Al Devine. He is divine. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. Hey, everybody, go down below and click like on this particular episode if you've enjoyed it. And if you would like and subscribe to everything and give us a 5-star review, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Al.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nicole.